right. Good to be with you all. Thanks so much, CBP, for hosting this. It's been so fun to get to actually see so much technology, so much interest in technology. I've been doing this for a while, and I was just had a chance to visit with our friends at the State Department, who I used to work with yesterday, and got to check in with them. Having worked with them for over 12 years, it's just really encouraging to see the progress that's been made, not just in the government sector, but in the business sector as well. So thank you for having me. Again, my name is Justin Dillon. I founded Freedom about 5 years ago, 2018. We are a supply chain risk software platform. You're going to see a lot of same presentation here today. So I know that I stand in between you and lunch. I'm very aware of that, and so I'm going to make sure that I burn as few calories in your brain as possible by sharing more our story. And if you want to see what we do and how we do it, just come back there, and Garrett back there and I can show you how to do it. But I'll run through it very quickly how we work. We've been doing this for several years. What's a little bit different about us is that we've built Freedom alongside procurement functions. So less compliance, though that's obviously an area we're in and our customers hold those titles, but we've built Freedom to work as a procurement and compliance team. And what that means is customers have given us their spend data. I'll explain that in a second. To date, we're about $100 billion in spend is managed on Freedom. That's B2B purchases on Freedom. Work with Fortune 500s, as we said in the bio. Industry agnostic, so we work with universities, aerospace, federal contracting, CBP. Most of our customers range, even managed services uses us to be able to monitor their supply chain, oddly enough. To date, we have over 471,000 entities that are actively monitored. That doesn't mean we don't have knowledge of those. That's what our customers have loaded and are actively monitored as of today. And we're able to monitor all the way down to the nth tier. That means the commodities level. And again, as I mentioned earlier, Freedom was started because of a partnership with the State Department, which I'll get into a second. But you know, we're here to talk about the UFLPA today, obviously. We've been helping companies comply with modern slavery acts around the world for years. And increasingly, we're now working with companies around the German due diligence law, the impending EU law. California Supply Chain Act has been around forever, and that's mostly just a due diligence law or a one in which the company mentions they're doing something. I've had the privilege of being able to watch these laws all the way from California law, which obviously I'm from, for years. And it's been amazing to see how the maturity, not just in business practices, have been adapting, but also just the intelligence in which these laws are being written. We see as the new laws come out, they get a little bit more attentive and pattern matching to the way that procurement works. But we do have a number of challenges still ahead of us that I want to get into. One of the ways that we work with, as we said, we work with spend data. That is our first party data. And so we work with partners like IBM, who's our go-to-market partner in the managed services space. We're embedded inside of large ERPs like SAP. We're even embedded inside of banks like Standard Chartered and Standard Bank in Africa. The whole point of our partnerships is so that we can live where our customers are currently operating. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what, I would love to buy another SaaS platform today. Literally no one. And we recognize that part of our innovation curve has to be how do we get to where our customers currently are, and how do we solve problems that they may not understand what the answers look like. And that's something that's really important to remember here. Anyone chasing perfection is on a fool's errand. You will never be perfect. Your supply chain will never be perfect, but it can be better. And I think that the point of this law and the point of the other laws is that we as companies have the opportunity to get better. Our mission as a company, we're mission-based. We're here to protect people, planet, and profits. We don't believe that any of those need to dilute each other. As Dr. Murphy was talking about earlier, we don't have to pick between people and planet. That is a poverty of imagination to think that we've got to choose one over the other. I mean that. Transparent and humane supply chains save lives. So that's who we are. I want to talk for a minute about why we do this. Supply chains isn't a space that I never necessarily thought I'd ever be in. Years ago, I got asked by the State Department to build a platform called Slavery Footprint to help consumers understand their own connection to slavery. This is over 10 years ago. I wasn't that excited about the idea because I'm kind of a hopeaholic. I believe that there's good things in the world. I believe that we can create change from where we are in the world, and the last thing I wanted to be associated with was the world's biggest bummer calculator called Slavery Footprint. But we built it nonetheless 11 years ago using econometrics and statisticians and all the rest of it, and building an algorithm that can determine for consumers, long before any of you had to deal with this. Consumers have been looking at their own slavery footprint for over 11 years. They've been going to this website that the State Department and Google funded, and they've been learning their own footprint. So in this case, consumers are way ahead of you. Over 32 million consumers have been looking at their own supply chain for over 11 years. They've loaded over 10 billion products worth trillions of dollars. And they've been showing up in the marketplace going, who do we buy from? This isn't necessarily a problem that gets hidden inside of the walls of compliance and trade. Consumers are increasingly aware, and they want to understand. And while you might not be a B2C company that's working here, you have B2C consumers working for you and on your boards. So this isn't just a business and compliance issue. This is a human issue. This is a consumer issue, and it's only growing. The other reason that I started this company was because once I saw the consumers cared so much, I felt like I needed to go understand this for myself. What does the bottom of a supply chain look like? And I went all over the world and I actually got to meet some of the kids in India. And this is a young girl sitting on a pile of mica. She gave me some. This is mica. This is a raw material. A child laborer who works every day, and they dress for work better than I do, goes into rat hole mines to pick this out, to go into our cosmetics, the bottom of our irons, our automobiles. That's what the bottom of a supply chain look like. If you want to, afterwards, we can run over to Dulles, I can book a flight, and I can take you to meet her. That's how easy it is to meet the bottom of your supply chain. But the reality is, we're sitting at the top, and we're sitting at the end of it. So this isn't unfigure-outable. This is something that we can get to. The greatest challenge in all of this, and all of my colleagues here shared this, it's data. It's not unattainable. My belief that if you want to create change, there's an algorithm for it. It's called will plus way multiplied by timing. There was a lot of will to create transparency in supply chains 10 years ago, but there wasn't ways. There are lots of ways here. You've seen them all. We all pretty much do the same thing. We're all pulling from the same data sources. Pick somebody that works well with you and go for it. But the reality is most companies don't have visibility in their supply chains. And when I learned that 5 years ago, I realized to be able to fix a social problem, we have to fix a data problem. Less than 6% of companies have any visibility at all, and 80% of the data, as my colleagues before said, is unstructured. Spend data is a hot mess in companies. That's the elephant in the room here. When we ask our companies for data, it comes in all shapes and forms and sizes, and a lot of times we're having to match those socks to be able to start to get them any kind of clarity whatsoever. There is a huge amount of work in federating data, and that to me is what was the other reason that I felt like this was a good reason to start Freedom. How do we take the world's data, start to put it together, change lives, and also change the way that we do business? Now, there's two ways of looking at this, and UFLPA has made this very clear. You can take a preventative response, or you can take a reactive response. Everyone here today has said, prevention is the best medicine, be on your toes, not on your heels, the best defense is a good offense, pick your metaphor. The whole thing is you need to start and get ahead of this and not just be reactive once you find something. So I'm going to go through how Freedom works and how we help you be preventative and also responsive. First thing we do is we do data federation. Again, that's the matching the socks. That's taking the spend data, helping our customers understand what they're buying, who they're buying it from, just at a basic tier 1 level. And then from there, we're able to start to map all the way back to commodities. We've built multiple different mapping tools. One of them that we're quite proud of, and you can go play with it in the back, is called product genomes. Essentially, it's a predictive bill of materials. I heard someone talk about commodities earlier. All you need to tell Freedom is what you buy, and we're able to tell you what commodities and raw materials and semi-components go into that. Why does that matter? Well, 5 years ago, when there wasn't as much of the mapping technology around trading partners, companies needed to know what products am I buying from what customers have the greatest amount of risk? And we were able to provide that for them. And by doing so, we're helping them do a job. That job is helping them to determine which suppliers need the greatest amount of oversight. We too, our customers have large swaths of suppliers, 10,000, 20,000, in some cases 70,000 suppliers that they need to manage. And again, from a procurement team, that is a lot to look at. They need to know why things are risky, where it's risky, and what things they need to pay the most attention to first. So we're able to map that all the way back to commodities level and the products level. We also map in trading partners. Everyone has this, the way you're able to map second, third tier, go backwards, all the rest of it. We're able to do that as well, where you're able to do entity matching and get a sense of which suppliers have the most riskiest suppliers. And again, we use predictive and actual data, meaning is there an infraction that you need to be paying attention to through adverse media or on the UFLPA list. All that data is loaded into Freedom and does that mapping technology just like everyone else. The other way that we help our customers do this is again, think of this as a macro, not just micro. A lot of the ways in which we've been looking at solving problems is on a single supplier level. Our customers deal in the macro, meaning that they have to look at their entire supply chain and know which ones, what has changed. And now I want to speak a minute about our customers. I don't have a data science background. I just love to make things that make a difference and give those to people. And I know that doesn't sound like much of a pedigree, but it's working for me. What I love about our customers is they tell us what they need. And I think that is so important. We take a jobs theory approach to innovation, meaning I can build you anything you want. Are you going to use it? What are you going to do with it? What's the problem it's going to solve? Some of that resonance and that 360 view and the intellectual honesty of knowing what problem a product is going to solve is so important in the innovation curve. You need to understand what someone's going to do with it and if they're going to use that. And that's how we've built every single feature in Freedom and continue to build our features, is understanding what jobs are we taking off of our customers' desks, which include alerts and supplier engagement as well. Now, response is also important. Our customers, many of them have to report yearly, meaning that UFLPA is something they have to deal with, but they also have to deal with the UK Modern Slavery Act and the Australia Act and whatever trade enforcement they have to do across Mexico, US, and Canada. So they have multiple different jobs that they have to do. So reporting becomes really, really important. What have they done? Again, these reports are, what have you done over the last year? What are you planning to do this year? And so many of our customers come to us and go, what's the best practice? And the answer is, we're still figuring it out. Every company's still figuring it out, and the government is figuring it out. But the cost of doing nothing continues to go up globally. Whether it's here at the UFLPA or the German Act, the cost of doing nothing goes up. So our customers need to be able to have a repository of what they've done year over year. In Germany, you have to keep track of 7 years of activity. Risk goes up, risk goes down, activity taken, remediation, all of that needs to be locked. So we're giving our customers a drawer with which they can track all of their activity and give them the ability to report. And quite frankly, what's very important to us is create impact. We're not here just to point at problems. We're here to make companies operate better, and we're here to make the world operate better. So impact is a big word for us. And if you're not into impact, we're definitely not the provider for you. All of our customers get speed to impact. The reality is most customers or most companies, if they're looking at this, are looking at it from a manual process. So the whole point of this is having a very light load, a very light lift to bring spend data in, and within 2 months you're already up and running and tracking risk inside of your supply chain. Where we see ourselves going is the other elephant in the room. Now there's 2 elephants, spend data and another one. You need your suppliers to provide you with information, and just sending them a questionnaire, speaking as a supplier myself, receiving questionnaires is not self-motivating. Why? Because we already have the contract. Why do I need to answer more questions? Suppliers need incentives to provide more information, and I think that is the next code to crack in the work that we are all trying to do, is how do we build a network where suppliers are not just doing because they have to, but because it's good for their business. Transparency needs to become a value add, not a cost center for companies. That's the only way we're going to start to trace back at scale. One of our, like I said before, we follow our customers. We follow them into what they do. And one of the customers that has just inspired us the most is a company called Oshkosh. They make big military vehicles, fire engines, lifts. They're the ones, when your mail starts to show up in an electric vehicle, think Oshkosh. They're the ones that are building that. Amazing company out of Wisconsin, an amazing individual named Alec, who's watching. Hey, Alec. He couldn't be here today with me. We love following their innovation curve. And one of the things that we've seen what Oshkosh has done with our technology is start to take it and putting it into the procurement process. We didn't even know they did this, but they took our tech, put it into the procure-to-pay process so that as suppliers get onboarded, they go through the vetting process before they ever become a supplier. We think that's amazing. And we think that our customers actually have the best ideas out there because they're the ones that are doing the jobs. So we're very appreciative of the way that they operate and what we can solve for them. Lastly, let's not forget that history doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. We've been here before. We've been here before. King Leopold in Congo, extracting the most precious commodity of its day, not mica, it was rubber. 10 million people's lives ruined and destroyed. We know what the history books say, and we know that we can, as human beings, we have to operate better. And just because we live in the 21st century does not give us any preference or any superiority over what has happened before. We're capable of this. We're also capable of using our collective will, our collective buying power, and our collective intelligence to be able to get rid of this and solve this for good. Transparency does save lives, and it can save your business. Thanks for listening. Any questions?